Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, March 23rd. Here's some headlines. The Governor Asa Hutchinson administration sent out a note late last night after the close of business hours that said that he intended to expand statewide, something that the legislature had thought would be just a pilot project in a handful of border counties. That is, he's going to require drug testing of all people who qualify for temporary assistance to families in need of it. It's a welfare program. It covers about 3,000 families. It's a sweeping piece of news that follows bad experience with this in other states. It's been tried elsewhere. It produces very little showing of people on drugs. It generally costs more than is ever saved by throwing people off welfare because they are on drugs. And furthermore, it's been found to be unconstitutional. To force people to take a drug test can be seen as a violation of their Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure. Nonetheless, the governor is going to proceed with this. The second question this raises is why now? To my way of thinking, it's some indication that it fits with his campaign to continue the Obamacare funded Medicaid expansion, which he wants to rename Arkansas Works. He's added a lot of things that add payments and work requirements and other things to welfare recipients. It's part of the general philosophy of Republicans that welfare people are undeserving of the help they get and they should pay something for it in return. A drug test kind of fits in that way of thinking. But I also learned that Democrats have let the governor know, not long before his announcement yesterday, in fact, that there's resistance to immediately approving all the pieces of legislation he plans in the special legislative next session to expand the Obamacare program and continue it. He wants to have managed care for a number of Medicaid programs. He wants to pass some legislation that gives providers some protection against loss of money when managed care takes over some Medicaid programs. Democrats like some of these ideas. They don't like all of them. They don't like being expected to give all their votes to a Republican governor who's giving them nothing in return, and who also face opposition in November from Republicans who hate Obamacare, which the governor wants to continue in Arkansas so it'll shore up his budget. There's an interesting political fight developing. There's some on the Democratic side who say the Democrats should simply roll over in the name of ensuring the continuation of health insurance at whatever the cost. Democrats would like to get something in return, something by way of more compassionate treatment of working poor people to begin with. I said yesterday that the government was not happy about Mike Maggio's plea for leniency in his bribery case in federal court. Its extensive filing explained those reasons why yesterday. He has not delivered on a promise to help them prosecute others who participated in his bribery scheme. They reject his arguments that he's not healthy enough and has suffered enough for what he's done to have to serve a long prison sentence. They want a maximum 10-year sentence. They want him to pay restitution of $4.2 million to the family who saw a verdict reduced by Mazzeo in his court after he received campaign contributions from the owner of the nursing home that was issuing the case. One of the most interesting things in the governor's filing yesterday was a reference to criminal activities to two other people with whom Mike Maggio has dealt. These people have not been named officially in government pleadings. They are known, of course, and they have not been charged. They insist they've done nothing wrong. Late yesterday afternoon, a local man filed a lawsuit against the State Board of Education for violating the Freedom of Information Act. As we've written on the Arkansas blog, private discussions were held among board members by email in advance of a meeting last week to consider whether to review charter school applications in Little Rock. The lawsuit contends those are a violation of the law. We're still waiting for news of this filing in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, a charter school supporter that normally is a bulldog on FOI matters. So far, silence on this issue in the state's largest newspaper. Last night, the Pulaski County Quorum Court voted unanimously by those present to endorse a change in law to end a dual observance of Martin Luther King and Robert E. Lee as a state holiday. It should only be a King holiday, and they got bipartisan approval of that idea last night. Presidential primaries were held yesterday in western states. Hillary Clinton won Arizona easily, lost badly to Bernie Sanders in Utah and Idaho, but it's important to note she lost in states where caucuses, not a primary election, was held. Hardcore party faithful, very liberal in those two states, although they're a minority in Utah and Idaho, decided that election. Bernie Sanders got more delegates last night from a far smaller voter turnout than Hillary Clinton got from a very big win in Arizona. She's still on target to win the nomination at this point. Donald Trump likewise won Arizona, but Ted Cruz did better in Idaho and Utah, again recognizing the split and hardcore partisan divides when you have a caucus election. Webb Hubbell, the former Little Rock lawyer, you may remember him from a fall from grace after he'd been in the Clinton administration, has published a fourth detective novel featuring his superstar lawyer David Patterson, not David Patterson, I've forgotten his name, but in any event, they've been somewhat popular. It has a fourth and out. It's about NFL football game of inches. I bring this up because speaking of the NFL, Jerry Jones, the Arkansas native who owns the Dallas Cowboys, made news today by saying he disagrees that the NFL says that football can lead to brain injuries. There's a lot of scientific evidence that this is so, but Jerry Jones knows better than the doctors. He did, after all, play football in Arkansas. It was in the post-helmet era, but I'm just saying. Jerry Jones versus doctors, you decide. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.
You feel it in your heart. The spirit of Little Rock. We've had that spirit since 1927, helping build our city by producing decades of leaders in the heart of our state. We are the heart of business and innovation, the heart of politics and government, the heart of arts and culture, and in our city beats the heart of a Trojan. UALR, we are Little Rock's team and Little Rock's University.